fights with passion, and he inspires.
Are you ready for a war?
All right, welcome back to From 8 Arbitration. Today I'm going to continue on with the 6-day count. I'm going to read for an hour. So you're going to get 1 hour of reading today, again. And if I don't finish it, next Sunday, well, not next Sunday, I'll be gone, but when I get back, another hour of reading. Because 6-day counts right now are very important. I think that if they don't come into a mutual agreement in January and 6-day counts stay around, the greatest thing we can do as shop stewards is educate ourselves on 6-day counts. And I'm talking about the boredom of just sitting here reading it. That's boredom. But the more you read it, the more you understand it, the more lethal you will be when dealing with 6-day counts. Because after you deal with it for so many times, it becomes second nature. Terminology becomes second nature. And so I think that that's the biggest benefit we can give our people right now is learning about 6-day counts, as well as all the other stuff we're learning about. But so I'll continue to read the 6-day count stuff, all right? And we'll just, if you're going to become an expert, you got to go over it over and over and over again, okay? I told y'all back when I first started, I didn't have social media, didn't have anybody to rely on, really. And Lou Drass would send me boxes and boxes. I'm talking about paper boxes, double-sided, filled with B-team decisions from all over the region. And that is the greatest way I learned. And that's the reason I put up B-team decisions on my episodes, so that you can see issue statements. If you've ever dealt with anything like light duty, limited duty, anything like that, and you're like, what in the world, where do I start? Or you're dealing with Article 8 grievances, rule of reason, and all these things. Where do I start? Looking at old B-team decisions was the best way for me because I could see the issue. I could read the position. I read management's position, and that's the reason I became so adept at knowing where management's going, because it's cookie cutter stuff for them. They rarely do they make new arguments, every so often, and then we'll just address that. But their arguments generally are all the same. So I would read and read and read and read. And so when I put these decisions up for you, read them. Read them. Get your issue statements down. Copy and paste arguments. Those are great learning tools for me. There was nothing greater. And so in arbitration decisions, I love reading arbitration decisions, as boring as that sounds. But again, it gives you a good issue statement. They will have copy and paste the contractual language in the arbitration decision. They will give you management's position, the union's position. They generally will stay the same. And then their decision. What's their discussion? What did they say? And so those were the best ways for me to learn because I didn't have social media that I could go to. I really didn't have anybody I could call. I didn't want to call Lou all the time because I knew he was busy. But he sent me those boxes, and that helped me more than anything else, was just reading. As boring as that sounds. But so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to keep reading these 6-day counts, okay? And we'll get through it. And if they don't come into an agreement, like I said, I'll continue to do that. I think discipline, get in Article 16, learn that stuff. Different arguments. When I first started this podcast years ago, I started out with discipline. There's nothing more important. It saves our livelihoods. Different ways to attack discipline, different things to look at, different angles to look at if you haven't thought about things before. And I've dealt with a lot of discipline, dealt with a lot of arbitrations. And so kind of know different angles that I've learned throughout the years. And so that's what I want to teach y'all. One of my greatest passions is education and teaching. And one of these days I'll get back to that, I promise. Once the CLC takes over this union and gets back to putting the city letter carrier first, you're going to see a major turn in our education, right? That will be the focus point of James Henry's presidency, is education. He's already told me that. And starting day one, I'm going to be educating. And so there's no greater passion to me than educating my people, carriers, and union officials alike. And so that's what we'll do. But so that's what I'm going to do today. Just read an hour again. of 6-day counts. And as boring as that is, just keep listening to it, right? And get this language down. It'll help your people. Remember Discord? Get on Discord. If you go to from8arbitration.com, it'll have those links for you. And just get on Discord. I'm telling you, there's a lot of great stuff on Discord. A lot of great channels. And you'll see what I'm talking about when you get on there. Even if you're not adept, I was terrible at it. I'm terrible at anything, really, computer-wise. I suck at all of it. But if you get on there, you'll see different channels, grievance help. And there's a lot of very bright people on there, on Discord, okay? So get on there. Also Reddit. Get on Reddit. This is about 7,000 strong right now on Reddit. They got some really funny stuff, too. Some really great things going on Reddit. Now, a lot of people get upset because their stuff gets deleted. That's out of their control, because if it gets too bad, Reddit themselves will remove the page. And there's nothing we can do about it. Once they remove the page, it's gone. And so the mods on there will generally let you say what you want to say. If you get too crazy, now they won't tolerate talk about strike. Not going to tolerate that, and I told them not to. And so, but if you start threatening, you calling people out there like disparaging, they don't like that. And so I do that on here, okay? And so, and that, hey, I know it chaps people's asses that I call people out of their name. I don't care. I really don't. I don't care at all. And I'll talk about that tomorrow, all right, in my episode. I'll have an episode tomorrow. John Poskin will be on Tuesday and do an episode. So you'll have one today, you'll have one tomorrow, and you'll have one Tuesday. John Poskin will be on Tuesday, and he's going to do an episode for you. So make sure you're getting on Discord. Make sure you're getting on Reddit. Great things. If you have Facebook, From 8 Arbitration Community is another great one. A lot of people are getting on there, and a lot of educational stuff on there. And they'll, I'm all about free speech. Say what you want to say. And on these. And so get on there. I want to give a shout out to John Morris. John Morris does a lot of great stuff on Reddit. A lot of great videos. So I want to give him a shout out. So John Morris, I appreciate you, brother. I really do. Thank you for what you contribute to that page. A lot of people contribute on Discord and Reddit. And I don't give them enough praise. I don't have anything to do with either one of those things. I don't delete you. I don't block you. I don't do nothing. Other people have asked if they could start those pages, and I said yes. So they have a lot of leeway. A lot of leeway. Now, every once in a while, I'll step in and say, hey, that right there needs to go. If you rely on anybody on the CLC, I'll delete that, all right, because I'm not going to have that happen. It was Union Day today at the Titans game, so I was at that. Went to the Tennessee game last night with my son, and we have season tickets to Tennessee Vol, so I went last night, stayed the night, woke up this morning, drove in, went to the Titans game. It was Union Day. I think we had about 80 from my branch 4 that went, so we had a good time. It was great seeing some old friends. I saw Chris Strickland, who's an RAA at the business agent's office, and I love Chris Strickland. I do. I think he does a fantastic job. And I hate it that he's down there with the incompetence he's having to deal with in the business agent's office down there, because he's a shining star that's kind of been, snuffed out a little bit as far as his talent, and it's kind of controlled by a dictator, kind of like our union is controlled by a dictator. It kind of snuffs people out, takes their jobs away from them, and things like that. So it's kind of become a dictatorship around a lot of these regions, and our national presidency is like that. And so, but Chris is a great guy, and I think the world of him. I informed him the other day that starting January, I'm stepping down doing arbitrations, and I'll finish out this year. I've got a couple left, but been doing them since 2012. It's my greatest passion was doing arbitration. And I would get straight funky in there, man. We were a demon in this region when Pete Moss first started assigning me cases. And he told me, you're going around this region, and I'm going to set you loose. And that's what he did. And I was a nightmare in arbitrations, man. We racked up a pretty doggone good record and became pretty adept at it. But with everything going on with the CLC, I just felt it was best. I always said if I couldn't give it 100%, I would step aside. And so with everything going on with the CLC, I just don't want it to take time away from my preparation. I think that if you're going to be a great advocate, not a good one, a great one, you have got to put in that time. You got to put in that time on that case, and you got to know where management's going to go. You got to find those arguments, how to put those arguments in if they're not in there. And so, it broke my heart to say I've got to step aside. Of course, I've been relegated to Middle Tennessee, because of the pride that's in my business agent's office right now. And so that's the reason I said, one of the reasons I said I was going to run is because you got to get rid of the pride. You got to put the city letter carrier first in everything you do. And that's not happening in my region, and it's not happening nationally. We have forgotten about the city letter carrier and how to put them first. That's coming back. That's coming back with the CLC. And we'll talk more about that later. But it was great seeing Chris. Great guy, just in a terrible situation with the incompetence at the business agent's office right now. And so it's also good to see Miss Diane Hughes. It's always good to see her. She's from around Huntsville area. And so Diana Hughes was there. And when we go way back as well, helped her out when she was just starting out. And so she's become quite the steward, Formal A as well. And so it's good seeing her. A lot of great stuff going on. A lot of great stuff going on in my world. Having fun with it, man. So tomorrow I'm going to do an episode on narcissism, how to defeat a narcissist when you're talking to one, when you're debating one, when you're going against one in any setting, whether it be Postal Service or the union, and we have them in both. And so I'm going to deal tomorrow about how to defeat a narcissist when you're talking to them. I think it'll be very entertaining, okay? And I'm going to call people names. I know people don't like that, but that's okay. I don't give a fuck. And I'll talk about this tomorrow, but I'll say it here. One of the reasons I'm like that now is because I have a very dear friend, and I've talked about this before, and I'll talk about it again tomorrow. A very dear friend that I've helped out a lot. She's a very powerful branch president, and is a very staunch advocate for city letter carriers. And if you're that, I want you around me. If you're a staunch advocate for the city letter carrier, not for the union, for the city letter carrier, I don't care about anything else. It's the city letter carrier first, nothing else is second. I have a passionate love affair with the city letter carrier. I always have, and I always will. Whatever position I'm going to take on, I'm going to put the city letter carrier first, and that's all that matters to me. There's nothing else that's important. And so that's how I conduct my business. If I'm around you and you do not do that, I have nothing for you. I have no love for you. I don't want to be around you, matter of fact. And so I've cut a lot of ties with the business agent's office because they have put themselves and the union above the city letter carrier. And so I have cut ties with them. I don't talk to them any longer. And it's a sad state of affairs that we're in, but I'm just like that. If you're not in it for the city letter carrier, what the hell are you doing? But anyway, this young lady is a staunch advocate for the city letter carrier and is a very powerful branch president, like I said. Her son was tragically murdered. And he was kind of ambushed, and they shot him with a shotgun, almost decapitated him. And so she is living with this daily, still dealing with court issues, right? Still going to court with all this. This has been going on for several years now. So it has broken her, this girl. It's broken her, obviously. The loss of a child is incomprehensible. I couldn't imagine it. To lose one like that broke her, okay? So she is a grieving mother, and she grieves daily, and she will for the rest of her life. And that's just how it is. Her other son, and I've talked about this before, her other son was the one dealing with the issues with his FMLA. And management came in, put a piece of paper in front of him and said, hey, sign this. And if you don't, we have no work for you any longer. Well, it was just a locally generated form. They just made the damn thing up. He said, I'm not signing it. So they just quit working him. We ain't got any work for you then. And so he goes to the business agent's office, and every single one of them in the business agent's office, my business agent, Region 8, every single one of them turned their back on her. Not one would help her. Not a single one. If y'all remember long ago when I did the episode, I said, just file the damn grievance. File the damn grievance. That's what I was talking about. File the damn grievance and get this thing heard, because it's a very easy grievance to win. But every one of them was telling her it's not a grievance. Her shop steward called me. I told him, here's the grievance. Here's what you're going to do. This is what you're going to ask. This is what you're going to request. These are your contentions. The branch president called me because her son was in another branch, right? Told her, this is what you do. This is the grievance. This is what you request. Okay? So then they contact the business agent's office and they're like, no, there's no grievance. They completely screwed this girl over and her son. Now remember, her other son has been tragically murdered. This other son is all she's got left. And now the Postal Service is fucking with him. We have no work for you. Go home. Stay home. Until you sign this piece of paper. So I get involved. And I tell her, hey, this is what you're going to do. So they file an EEO. And I said, in the EEO, this is what you're going to ask management. They cannot answer it. Ask them these specific questions. Have these things ready. Have them available. So they go in there, they question, she questions, she represents her son herself. Questions management, they can't answer the questions. So they have to bring her son back, give him back the job that he was doing because it was well within his restrictions and his FMLA. And then they paid him all the money that he was due since he'd been gone. Huge victory for her. This same girl who's been dealing with all these things goes to Biloxi for training, regional training. That's when your president, Renfro, goes down there, strong arms her, tries to get her to merge with another branch when she says, no, I'm not doing that. I don't feel comfortable with the branch you're trying to tell me to go to. I'm going to represent my carriers myself. And that's when he called her a bitch, right? So here's a girl, young lady. That son was tragically murdered, almost decapitated with a shotgun, was ambushed. The other son, out of work. The union turns their back on him. She has to deal with it herself. Goes to Biloxi, paid her own way. Now, didn't use the branch's money, paid her own way. Goes down there to learn. Gets confronted by this asshole of a president we have. He tries to strong-arm her into merging with another branch. When she says no, he calls her a bitch. Now, when Mr. Weir investigated that, he talked to the people involved. Brian Renfro lied about it, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow again when we talk about narcissists, how you're going to defeat narcissists, because he's going to be one of the main characters in my episode. He lies about it, which is common amongst narcissists. Now, he will blame it on alcoholism. It's what he was doing at the convention. All these lies was because I was an alcoholic. And that's one of the side effects of alcoholism is you lie a lot. I think that brings out the liar in you more. And so if you're a liar, you're a liar. So all these things happened after he said he was sober, right? So he lied about it, and Weir says, no, there's no reason for her to make that up, and it was heard by another party, okay? So this is one of the charges being brought forward, and the executive council said that wasn't substantial. It wasn't substantial that the head of the union, the president, the one that should be above reproach, that's my position. The one that should have integrity, that's my position. The one that should be morally above reproach, they said that the executive council said that that wasn't substantial. That charge wasn't substantial. It wasn't substantial that he tried to strong arm this young lady and then called her a bitch. That wasn't substantial. So, like I said, from then on, from that day forward, I will call him out of his name. And that's a personal choice because of my friend, the young lady, who's a very dear friend of mine. Because of that young lady and the things that she's been through just to survive every day waking up, to get out of bed and function because of what's happened to her, and the callousness of the son of a bitch we have at the top, the callousness of that, to think that you are so important, the dictatorship that you're running, you are so important that if somebody doesn't cave into you and bend over in front of you, they're a bitch. And the executive council carrying water for you doing that. The young lady who has had the most tragic thing imaginable happen to her, coming on her own dime to learn, and is going to end up being called a bitch by our president. And so I don't really care if people say that you call people names. They will lump me in with the CLC and say the CLC calls people names because of me. I don't care. I don't give a fuck, really. Because that asshole called a very dear friend of mine who is dealing with the most heartache anybody could ever fathom. And he thinks that he's so important, that he is so important, godlike, that if you don't cave into him, you're a bitch. So anybody who doesn't like that can kiss my ass. And that's just the way it is. You can kiss every single inch of this ass. Really. If you think that Corey Walton's bad because he calls certain people out of their name, I will continue to call him a bitch. I will continue to call his buddy, the executive vice president, Pony Boy, because he had an opportunity to address that and didn't. So for my friend's sake, you'll forever be called out of your name. And if y'all don't like it, that's tough shit. That's one thing that I have never cared about, what people think about me. I never have. I'm in it for the city letter carrier only. Period. That's it. I'm a city letter carrier today. I'll be delivering mail tomorrow. I don't do this for any other reason but to help city letter carriers. That's where my love is. That's where my love lies, right? Is the city letter carrier. That's it. That's all. So you don't like me? You don't like that? Don't give a fuck. Really don't. So tomorrow we'll be talking about narcissists, how to defeat narcissists. There's a way you can defeat them very easily. Very easily. And I'll give you some examples of arbitrations that I've been in with narcissists and how I've defeated them. And then we'll talk about your president, how he's narcissistic. Very easy to defeat. He's a smart guy, but he's ignorant as far as this workroom floor. He's ignorant. And he's ignorant about things that he says and puts out. Okay? He's a very easy target as far as defeating him and his narcissism. So we'll talk about that tomorrow, okay? So let's get on this 6-day count. I'm going to read for 1 hour. 1 hour. All right? And then at the end of this hour, I'm done. I'm going to bed because I'm very tired. Again, we're in 6-day counts. Shop stewards, if you want to be exceptional, study. Study. Listen. Learn. Okay? And so I'm going to read this for an hour. The next week, I'm going to read again for an hour. And then we'll just keep going. I'll just keep doing things about 6-day counts. All right? About route protection and things like that. All right? So here we go. 1 hour of reading. What time is it? All right. 1 hour. 5, curtailing mail. There should not be mail curtailed the day prior to the inspection beginning, and no mail curtailed on the last day of inspection. M39, Section 221.134. M39, Section 221.134. There must be no accumulation of curtailed mail on the day preceding the beginning of the count, and no mail may be curtailed on the last day of the count. For exceptions, see 144, Expedited Preferential Mail Delivery Program. Mail that is distributed to the carriers up to the normal cutoff time will be delivered every day during the count. M39, Section 221.136. M39, 221.136. All mail distributed to the carriers up to the normal established cutoff time will be delivered every day of the count week except as required by 221.134 and 221.135. Now here's what's important. When we go back up here to 221.134, it says there must be no accumulation of curtailed mail on the day preceding the beginning of the count. That means the day up to it, right? The day right before, can't curtail mail. All the mail must be out. The station must be clean. And no mail may be curtailed on the last day of the count. No mail. So here we have my station, right? And they come in and they say they're going to take out 32 hours is what we saw in the email. That came from headquarters. They're doing all of these. I told you that gentleman told me that in Dallas, when they're doing their training for the 6-day counts, they said that they're going to try to get all the routes back that they lost during TRAP this fall. And so headquarters is telling them how many hours these stations should be taken. How many hours should be taken out of these stations, right? And so 32 hours was the number they said on my station. And so we did our 6-day count, educated my carriers, and they came back and said it looks like they're going to take 2 hours. They wanted 32. They said they're going to be able to take 2. And they've got a problem with that. I'm going to grieve that and I'll win that. One of the problems is the Friday, the last day of the count, we have flats come in. And when I come in, I see management over there. They're looking at these flats like they've never seen flats before. They're standing around this pallet of flats looking at it. And so when I come in, I go over to get my scanner, and I'm looking, and I'm like, why are they looking at those flats? There's like 3 or 4 of them just sitting there looking down at the flats. And so I go by the guy and I said, hey, we putting those flats out? It's got to be clean. No, those will be going out Tuesday. I go over to the flats, and on the flats is a handwritten note. Don't deliver until Tuesday. It's just handwritten, like one of those managers just wrote a handwritten note, don't deliver till Tuesday. So I took pictures of the flats, and that'll go on our grievance. So make sure that you look at all those things in your station. On that Friday, is there any mail laying around that they're not going to distribute? Take pictures of it. That will go in your file, okay? And so that happened to me. And so I took pictures of it, and we'll put that in the case file because it says no mail may be curtailed. It doesn't say some mail may be curtailed or very little mail may be curtailed. It says no mail. And when that word no is very powerful, even though it's just 2 letters. N-O, no mail. So when I go to arbitration, I'm going to say that to the arbitrator. The word no means no, right? We hear that all the time. If you ask your mother, Mom, can I have a cookie? No. So what happens if you go in there and get a cookie? You get that ass tanned up real good. Why? Because she told you no. That's the importance of no. Okay? So, no mail. 6, casing mail in the PM. No mail should be cased upon return from the street the day prior to the start of the inspection. Mail should only be cased after returning from the street during the week of inspection if the carrier is normally scheduled to do so throughout the year. If this is to occur on the last day of inspection, the carrier must be clocked off of Form 1838C, M39 Section 221.135. M39 221.135. Carriers must not be allowed to case any mail upon their return to the office on the day preceding the first day of the count period. However, If a carrier is regularly scheduled throughout the year to case mail on return from the street, the carrier must continue to do so during the count period. Carriers must not case any mail for delivery after returning from the street on the last day of the count period until they have clocked off the Form 1838C for the day. For exceptions, see Chapter 1, Part 144, Expedited Preferential Mail Delivery Program. 7. Management provides a copy of PS Form 1838C to carriers. Letter carriers might not receive their duplicate copy of the day's Form 1838C worksheet until the next morning because the manager is required to review the form for errors and irregularities. Any errors or irregularities on the form must be discussed with the carrier before the next day's count so the mistake will not be repeated. None of that happened in my station. That is going to be part of our grievance as well. The Postal Service has acknowledged its obligation to timely provide carriers with copies of Form 1838C. In the national level arbitration on 6-day inspections, see 23767, Arbitrator Briggs noted on page 22 management's position as, management provides carriers with a copy of the former 1838C so they have an opportunity to correct any errors or dispute a management notation. And that didn't happen in my station a lot. And so one of them carries the Route 32 out of my station. We get it back, and they have him down as 1 minute of office time. Now, he wasn't able to address it because we didn't get it. And so that will be part of my grievance. But they had him down as 1 minute of office time. They had another carrier down as 43 minutes of waiting time. And 32 minutes of that was at the dock waiting to load the vehicle. Only problem is all the carriers wait that long every day to load the vehicle because when they redid our station, they came in and renovated our station years and years and years ago, about 20 years ago. And when they did, they made our dock too small. I've got 30 routes. And so our dock is way too small. It only holds about 4 vehicles at a time. So we're constantly having to wait. That's every day. And so they put him down as 32 minutes of waiting time for waiting to load his vehicle. I went to both of the guys that were over the inspection, and I told them, I said, hey, we do that every single day. And they agreed. I said, well, if you do it every day, we're not going to count it. Well, they did. And so when he got his form, it was 32 minutes of waiting time to load the vehicle. So it's different things like that we'll find, okay, as we go through these forms, and we'll talk about all that later, but we'll find those errors, and we'll get those times, okay? 8, discipline for not making office standards. No letter carrier can be disciplined for simply not making standards. There must be a showing of unsatisfactory effort. This showing must be based on documented, unacceptable conduct that led to the carrier's failure to meet office standards. M39, section 242.332. M39, 242.332. No carrier shall be disciplined for failure to meet standards, except in cases of unsatisfactory effort, which must be based on documented, unacceptable conduct that led to the carrier's failure to meet office standards. Street. 1. Discipline for not making street standards. And this is throughout the year, okay, because management is emboldened right now more than they've ever been because we have a president and executive vice president that caves into them more than anybody I've ever seen. And y'all know what I'm talking about. We've caved into every single thing, the concessions that we've made to them about watching us with scanners, about reducing fixed office time to 20 minutes. Regardless of what anybody says about that, you don't concede anything to management. You make them fight for it like they make us do. So when you say we're reducing an office standard, the 33 minutes of fixed office time, reducing it to 20 minutes, you will see people argue for Renfro. He will argue on his behalf that you still get, it takes what it takes. You still get whatever it takes, you get it. That's not the point. I know I'm getting off track, but this is something that's chapped my ass. That's not the point. When you put on paper that the new fixed office time is 20 minutes. Management will use that against the carrier, and it will create a hostile working environment. We do not come into an agreement with management to take anything away that we have. You cannot do it. We never go backwards. And unfortunately, I don't know why this clown we have as a president refuses to protect the city letter carrier, and he always goes backwards. If management wants to adjust that, make them fight for it. They must fight for every single thing. And that's where the CLC, when they come in, will make sure if you want to adjust a fixed office time, fight for it. You fight for it. We will not concede 1 minute. And it's way too easy with this current administration. They get what they want as far as the Postal Service. They get what they want. They get times put on memos about these 22 minutes parcel delivery. Puts minutes on that. These are just, they're not standards. They're parameters. No such thing. No such thing. If it takes what it takes, there's no parameter, standard, average, nothing. And y'all have heard me say, but it chaps my ass that we have to deal with this constantly with this buffoon as a president because he refuses to stand up for the city letter carrier. When I say that the city letter carrier must be first in everything that you do, they must be first. The Postal Service is not even on the list. I don't give a damn about the Postal Service. I work here. I love working here. I love my route. I love my station, my carriers. But I'm not concerned about their affairs. I'm concerned about one thing and one thing only, the city letter carrier. We do not come into an agreement with management to reduce anything. You make them fight. And so, I don't know why I got off on that. But anyway, discipline for not making street standards. That's just a little something free for y'all, okay? There are no street standards. Period. End of sentence. There are no street standards. There's no street. We load vehicle on the street. There's no standard for that. There's no average. There's no 22 minutes. Because there's no street standard. We clock to the street and we load our vehicle. So that is a street function. Right? We have no standard. So you can't put an average because there's no standard. When you put averages, we get abused. You got to understand that. But that's the problem. This cat at the top was just a visitor down on his floor. He was just an observer. He spent so little time on the workroom floor. He just was a visitor down here amongst us in the trenches. Those of us who have been here for a period of time. He's just a visitor. He doesn't understand what happens when you do stupid things. He doesn't understand what happens to us when you do stupid things, like say there's averages. I don't care if it's for a route count and inspection. I don't care if it's for a joint process. I don't care. You don't do it. You don't put averages. You don't put parameters, standards, nothing. If it takes what it takes, if there is no standard, make management fight for that. We don't do that. We don't come into a joint agreement to help management. That's all that did. That helped management 100%. Didn't help us at all. It helped management 100%. It helped them stay at the desk and not have to do their fucking job, going out and observing, which is what they're supposed to do under street management, right? They're supposed to get up off their lazy fat ass, go out on the street and observe us. What he did with these memos, 1982, 83, 84, and also with this new MOU, is say, y'all don't have to do anything. Y'all aren't required to go out and do a damn thing. I will fix that for y'all. I will help y'all in that. We'll put in these memos that you can watch them on the scanner, and we'll just put times on here, just averages. Okay? We're going to put averages even though there's no street standard. Even though there's no average for a parcel, we'll put one on there. Even though there's no average for certified delivery, we'll put one on there. Even though there's no average for loading time, we'll put one on there. Even though there's no average for NDBCs, we'll put one on there. All these things help management. And then at the end of it, what we're going to say is you can't grieve it. So this cat, he doesn't get the city letter carrier. And unfortunately for him, he's going to go back to being one in 2 years. He'll go back to being a city letter carrier, and that may help him. If he doesn't go into management, which I strongly believe he will when he gets defeated, he'll go back to delivering mail, and I think that he should go to a place. Nothing against Hattiesburg. I've been down there often. Love those carriers in Hattiesburg. We went down there and got rid of a tyrant for him. And he needs to be in a big city where he deals with a lot of things, and that will help him be a better shop steward. And if he wants to climb the ranks after that, more power to him. But his time as president's coming to an end. Anyway, let's get back to this. I've been sitting on this a while. Can y'all tell? I've been sitting on this a while. Tomorrow's going to be fun. We're going to have a fun time tomorrow. But it's going to be educational, right? I'm always going to try to make things educational. So, there is no street standards. In national level settlement M304, the parties agreed there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. This language was reinforced in the September 16, 2011 national level settlement M1769. The relevant language from these two settlements is shown below. M304. In keeping with the principle of a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, it is understood that there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. M1769. There is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. These settlements are reproduced in their entirety on the next 2 pages. And the reason this is important, there was 4 carriers that were not available when they did our consultation. And so I went in there for them. I'm looking at all their documentation, and I'm questioning everything. Every minute I'm questioning. Because I want it down on the form that I question these for the carrier consultation. So when it goes forward, when they come to their routes, everything on these forms was questioned. One of the things was the inspector's notes, the examiner's notes. They said that carrier had a good pace before lunch. After lunch, their pace declined. They got slower. I just used those 2 settlements. I said, we have no pace. There is no set pace at which I must walk. There's no street standard. So, whatever was going on before lunch, I got full, and after lunch, my pace slowed down. Doesn't matter. There is no set pace. When they say carriers had a good pace, I even said it then. There is no pace. There's no pace at which I must walk, right? And when one of them was talking about how slow a pace the carrier was doing, there is no set pace at which I must walk, right? And so I'll read both of these settlements. They're very good, and we've gone over them numerous times on my episodes, but they're 2 of the best things we're going to use when we're defeating management's arguments about pace, slow pace. There's no such thing as a slow pace. What pace must I walk? How fast must I go? One of them even put down how many miles per hour the carrier is going in between boxes. Carrier's only going 10 miles an hour. That's exactly what was on the form. 10 miles an hour between boxes. And I said the same thing. There's no set pace at which I must walk. Right? And this is what they say. M304 says each of these cases involve a disciplinary action as a result of route management. In keeping with the principle of a fair day's work for a fair day's pay, it is understood that there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. Right? There's one of them. Here's the other. M1769. No carrier shall be disciplined for failure to meet standards, except in cases of unsatisfactory effort, which must be based on documented unacceptable conduct that led to the carrier's failure to meet office standards. Furthermore, as stated in the agreement for case there, which I just read, there is no set pace at which a carrier must walk and no street standard for walking. That is there for the protection of the carrier. That is not there for the protection of management. Why? Why is that? Why? You have Article 3, which has management's rights. They have all these rights on Article 3. Why is it that on these 2 things, 2 of the most important things we deal with about routes, us on routes, we have no street standard? Why did they give us all of that? Because that's a lot. I can go as slow as I want to, and there's not shit you can do to me. Why? Because there's no set pace at which you must walk. Why did we get all of that in these two settlements? Because we are the ones who carry the mail every single day. Those two things were protection for us against them. That's why that's so important. We are the ones who do the work, not management. They can't come out there and set a pace for us. Why? Because their fat, lazy asses are going to be sitting at a desk, not doing shit. We are the ones who do the work. We are the backbones of the Postal Service. We are out there every single day. Some days I can go fast. Some days I go very slow. Right? That's just how it is. Some days I feel really good, and I'll get to thinking about something, and I'll be finishing my route, and I say, damn, I'm already done. Some days I don't feel well. I'm old. I've got arthritis in both my hips. I've got blood clots in both my calves, right? Joints always hurt. I'm 55, like I said. So some days I get out there and it takes all damn day. Just to do simple, not much mail, not many parcels, it just takes all damn day. You know what they can do to me about that? Nothing. Not shit. There's no set pace, so we must walk. Those things are in place to protect me, not management. They don't do anything all day. They sit in the office looking at TV screens. They don't do anything. So those step fours are there to protect us, not management. 2, conduct of the route examiner. The role of the examiner is to observe and accurately record data. Section 232.1 of the M39 Handbook requires the examiner to do the following. M39 232.1. The route examiner must A. Not set the pace for the carrier, but should maintain a position to observe all delivery points and conditions. Now, this is another thing. This is what you'll see them doing. Several of my carriers at my station said this happened. It happened to me. They walked with me on Saturday. The young lady who walked with me, she was very kind. She I don't know that she meant to do it, but she's walking like 6 steps ahead of me. And so at one point I just said, hey, you trying to set my pace? Oh, no, I'm sorry. I was just thinking about something. So she backs up, So the next 2 times she walked with me, she was right beside me. But you will see them walk ahead of you. They're trying to set your pace. Another instance, had a young lady that carries Route 15 out of my station. Had this asshole following her. And he was reporting back to the MCSO, who has nothing to do with these 6-day counts, had no involvement. And that's another part of my grievance, is that he's reporting back to the MCSO, and the MCSO keeps calling my station manager. Now, why is he reporting back to the MCSO? He's snitching, right? He's just a little snitch. But when they go out there to get her, he's bumper to bumper with her, following her, almost touching her bumper. He's trying to set a pace, trying to intimidate and scare. And so she says, hey, this guy is riding me. He's been doing it all day. He's not back any kind of distance. He's right on my bumper. So the guy that was doing the examination that was over it sent him home. He calls him back to the office, and I'm not going to tolerate that, and send him home. And so they will try to set the pace. Okay, they'll try to set the pace. But it says an A, not set the pace for the carrier, but should maintain a position to observe all delivery points and conditions. B, not suggest or forbid any rest or comfort stops, but should make proper notations of them. C, not discuss with the carrier on the day of inspection the mail volume or the evaluation of the route. These matters must be discussed with the carrier at a later date when all data has been reviewed and analyzed. Now, that's another thing that we dealt with. We had one little asshole that was there. He was standing behind this carrier, same carrier, Route 15, with other examiners talking about the lack of mail. Enough for us to hear it, so we all wrote statements, and we'll grieve that. But he's talking about, look at how little mail she's got. She shouldn't be out there anytime. Surely she's not going to be out there all day. There's no mail. Look in her case. I can count the mail that's in her case. He was doing that constantly. And so finally I went and told the examiner, said, hey, tell my boy there to shut his mouth. You know, the carriers are getting anxious. You know, my carriers are rabid dogs. And I said, tell him he needs to be quiet because these carriers are fixing to go off. So he went over there and told him to be quiet. But I'm putting statements in there. We'll agree with that as well. So not discuss with the carrier on the day of inspection the mail volume or the evaluation of the route. These matters must be discussed with the carrier at a later date when all data has been reviewed and analyzed. D. Make notations on the day of inspection on the appropriate form or separate sheet of paper of all items that need attention, as well as comments on the day of inspection. Also list any comments or suggestions for improving the service on the route, as well as suggestions or comments made by the carrier during the course of the inspection for improvement in delivery and collection service. E. Make comments and suggestions clearly and in sufficient detail for discussion with the carrier and for decision-making purposes. The manager, who will actually discuss the results with the carrier, must have enough facts and figures to reach a final decision on any necessary adjustments to the route. Here's another thing. When you look at the 1838C, they had on there waiting time, carrier waiting. They had all these times on there on each one, on several different ones. Carrier waiting time. Now, all that comes off the route, right? So if they have you down for 10 minutes of carrier waiting, if you don't address it, it'll come off. So when I get in there and I'm dealing with these carriers that weren't at work, I go to the form that talks about carrier waiting time. No entry. But on the 1838, there's these entries. Carrier waiting, 10 minutes, 43 minutes, 20 minutes. Nothing written down on the form that says carrier waiting. So we addressed that. So make sure that you're looking through those packets there in the carrier consultation. Go to the carrier waiting and make sure you address it. That's for us, not for them. When this goes to arbitration, I want to be able to show the arbitrator, look, we addressed every single thing we could address. They didn't correct the first damn thing, and now we have routes that are out of adjustment. And this is the reason why. We had carrier consultations. They didn't pay attention to anything we said. All right. Any claims of a violation of these requirements should be supported by a detailed statement from the letter carriers involved. And that's critical. You got to have statements because I want testimony. All right. No statement, no testimony. So you got to have statements in the case file from carriers talking about these certain things. All right. 3. Street break rules. If the route being inspected takes both rest breaks on street time, the breaks will be taken separate from each other. The street breaks must also be separate from the lunch period. M39 section 242.341. M39 242.341. The carriers at the delivery unit will receive 2 10-minute break periods. The local union may annually opt to have either both breaks on the street or B, one of the 10-minute breaks in the office and one break on the street. If 2 10-minute breaks are taken on the street, they will be separate from each other. Breaks must be separate from the lunch period. The carrier shall record on Form 1564A, delivery instructions, the approximate location of the breaks. Reasonable comfort stops will not be deducted from the carrier's actual time. And so we will define reasonable, all right? Because management will say, like they try to do with one of my ladies on Route 13, she has to come all the way back to the station to use the restroom. She's up in the woods. There's nowhere for her to go unless she wants to go behind some trees, which she will not do. So she has to come all the way back to use the restroom. They try to take that off saying it wasn't reasonable. There's nowhere else for her to go. So make sure that we address that. There's a lot of stuff we're going through right now with management talking about your breaks on your Form 1564A are this, and you didn't take it there. Why not? That's part of those things they're looking at us for stationary events when we say we're working, right? It says the approximate location of the break. It didn't say the definitive location of the break. It says the approximate location, all right? So approximately around there, I'll take a break. I may not be there every single day, but approximate location. So approximately down the street here, but I'm a street over, so I'm going to take it there. So it's not definitive, right? It's kind of like the 3996. It's an estimate. There's no such thing as an exact estimate. Well, this is approximate, okay? It's not definitive. 4, comfort stops. Section 242.341 of the M39 Handbook, shown above, also provides that reasonable comfort stops will not be deducted from the carrier's actual time. You have to watch out for management trying to deduct time that was used for reasonable comfort stops, and they will do that. There is no one-size-fits-all definition for what the term reasonable means in this instance. While management likes to put a number to everything, this is one of those situations where they just can't do that. Nature and geography control the amount of time that is reasonable for comfort stops. Unfortunately, we have a president now that allowed management to put numbers to everything. And that's exactly what he did in these memos. He put numbers to everything. We don't have a street standard. However, he put averages for every single thing based off of 2 stations that they went to. So now everything has an average. We got abused more for that than anything I've ever dealt with in my 32 years. The ignorance of that. Because management wants to put numbers on everything. They want us to be to abide by all of these numbers that they come up with that are just pulled straight out of their ass. Unfortunately, we have a president that allowed them to put numbers on everything because he was just a visitor down here on this floor, right? He was not a city letter carrier for any period of time. He was a guest and then shot straight up the ranks, and now he's making stupid-ass decisions because he doesn't understand the carrier craft. Bright guy, ignorant as far as the workroom floor. Extremely ignorant. So this says here, while management likes to put a number to everything, he did it. He put a number to, and he's still doing it with his 20 minutes of fixed office time. Regardless of what they say, like I said earlier, regardless of what they say, watch and see. I already had somebody text me, and I put it up if anybody doubts me. They're going through their consultations, and management is already trying to adopt this 20 minutes fixed office time. He said that. He said management came in there and said, hey, there's only 20 minutes of fixed office time now. That's what they do. They're ignorant as fuck. They're dumb as hell. And they will abuse anything in writing. And so when you do that, he doesn't think. He thinks out of his ass. He doesn't think with his head. And it causes us great stress. So we'll be dealing with that, though. That'll be catastrophic to us as well. And 5, improper deductions of street time. Management may not just make a time deduction just because a letter carrier allegedly failed to properly finger mail or take proper shortcuts. Instead, management is required to instruct the letter carrier to use proper procedures and make every effort to reinspect the route prior to adjustments being implemented. M39, Section 242.344. M39, 242.344. If, during the route inspection, the supervisor notes that the letter carrier fails properly to finger mail or to take proper shortcuts, and that those failures were sufficient enough to warrant a time adjustment for the route, a reinspection will be made after the letter carrier has been instructed regarding the proper procedures to be used. Every effort will be made to conduct such reinspection prior to the implementation of the adjustments in the delivery unit. That's critical. Why? Management's lazy. They're inherently lazy. And they will just deduct the time. There's a procedure, right? They must reinspect me after they have informed me. Okay, so pay attention to that. If you see anything deducted because the carrier didn't finger his mail in between stops when you're on walking route, right? Go to one house, you're supposed to finger that mail in between and have that mail available for delivery when you reach that next box. If they don't do that, they can't just disallow that time. They got to make you aware of it. You have to be reinspected. Watch out for that. They're lazy. Like I said, inherently lazy and dishonest. They're thieves. And so they'll do anything they can to steal from us. And this is one of those things. 6, week after route count inspections, PS Form 1840B. Remember that when the week of inspection is over, the carrier is not finished with the inspection process. The week after the route count and inspection is the 8th week. used for completing the 1840B time card analysis, M39 section 242.324. M39 242.324. The average street time for the week following the week of count and inspection, including only the days the regular carrier served the route, shall then be recorded on Form 1840B and averaged into the 7 weeks random time analysis to obtain an 8-week composite week average. If the regular carrier did not serve the route on at least one of the days of the week following inspection, that week would not be used in computing the street time allowance for the route. The average weekly street times for those weeks will then be transferred to Form 1840. Section 4. After the week of count and inspection. General. 1. Only the regular carrier's time is used. If a regular carrier is assigned to a route, only that carrier's times can be used to evaluate and or adjust a route. M39 section 241.35. Here's another one. Young lady on Route 29 out of my station. She's my assistant shop steward, a hellraiser. So she's off the whole week of the count. She wasn't there. She had approved annual leave, so she had to go out of town. So she got her 1840, 7 weeks. She's got the week of inspection. They used the week of inspection, saying that it was the carrier's demonstrated time. She wasn't there. She wasn't there. She was there during the 7 weeks analysis period. They could have used that time because she was there then, but she wasn't there the week of inspection. On the 1840, they put down the week of inspection time when she wasn't there. So that's an easy grievance for me. So only the regular carrier's time is used. If a regular carrier is assigned to a route, only that carrier's times can be used to evaluate and or adjust a route. M39 section 241.35. M39 241.35. M. Totals line. Enter on this line the totals of columns A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, excluding the time shown for replacement carrier or carrier technician. I'll say that again. Excluding the time shown for replacement carrier or carrier technician in columns A, B, C, D, and E. The difference between the totals of columns A and B must equal the difference between the totals of columns C and D. Enter on totals line under the total pieces delivered totals of columns 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and 7 for all days. N. Averages. 1. Divide the totals for columns A and B by the number of days for which time is recorded for the regular carrier in each column. 2. Compute average under or over standard office time for regular carriers by dividing the difference between the totals of columns C and D by the number of days on which the route was served by the regular carrier. Do not include over or under standard time entries for services performed by a replacement carrier or carrier technician, which is exactly what they did. 3. If the total over standard is greater than the total under standard, the resulting average will be average over standard and must be entered in column C. If the total under standard is greater than the total over standard, the resulting average will be average under standard and must be entered in column D. Following is an example of how to compute averages when both over and under times exist. 224 under standard less 37 over standard equals 147 or 107 minutes divided by 5. That's the number of days, right? 5 days. Equals 21 minutes average under standard. 4. Divide the total hours and minutes recorded under net street time used, column E, by the number of days for which time was recorded, exclusive of bracketed time used by replacement carrier or carrier technician. Again, which did not happen in that case on Route 29. 2. Recording replacement carrier time on PS Form 1840. The days the regular carrier does not carry the route are identified on Form 1840 as explained below in sections 241.32 and 241.33 of the M39 Handbook. These days are excluded when evaluating the route. M39 241.32. The inclusive dates from and to columns on the extreme left must be completed to show the inclusive dates of the count period and under day, each day of the week. Enter the letter R, immediately to the left on the day on which the route was served by a replacement carrier. The letter T on the day the carrier technician T6 served the route. Circle the day on which the route was inspected. 241.33, bracket, it has two brackets, the time entries in columns A, B, C, D, and E for the dates on which the route was served by a replacement carrier or carrier technician, T6, because these figures are to be excluded when entering the figures on the total lines for columns A, B, C, D, and E. 3. Vacant routes. So what should be done with vacant routes? The answer depends on the particular circumstances of each route. For instance, if there is a regular carrier assigned to a route and isn't present during the week of count for any reason, standard office time and 1840B street time must be used. This is true because the language discussed above in section 241.3 of the M39 Handbook as referenced above. If there is a vacant route with no carrier assigned to it at all, there must be a qualified replacement carrier assigned to the route in order for the data collected to be accepted as valid. Whether or not a qualified replacement was assigned to a route that is truly vacant, has no regular carrier assigned to it, during the week of the count is a judgment call that you're going to have to make. Once again, it just depends on the particular circumstances for each route. Let's say you have a carrier that's been holding down the same vacant route 2 years, and she is assigned to do the route during the week of count. In this example, it would be hard to argue that she wasn't a qualified replacement. On the other hand, let's say a carrier is assigned to a route during the week of count that she doesn't perform on a regular basis, or if it's common knowledge that the carrier doesn't normally take his/her breaks and or works through lunch. In either of these examples, it would be easy to argue that she wasn't a qualified replacement, and they'll try to put CCAs on those routes that are brand new to the station, right? And so we would say that, hey, that carrier was not qualified, wasn't a qualified replacement. 4. Exclude Saturday on routes with abbreviated or no Saturday delivery. Saturday is excluded from the count week on routes with abbreviated or no delivery on Saturday. The language in section 221.11 of the M39 and section 921.2 of the M41 is clear. Routes with abbreviated or no delivery on Saturdays are only inspected for 5 consecutive delivery days, Monday through Friday. Management may try to convince you that if Saturday is excluded, then Monday must also be excluded. Now, I know this sounds like I've been over this a bunch, but this is page 54, so I'm going right down these pages, okay? So I'm not rereading what I've already read because I've already dealt with this a bunch. And this is true. If you have a business route, most of it will be closed on Saturday. That's abbreviated delivery. That's what that means. And so they cannot use that day of abbreviated delivery. What they will try to do is they'll say, we'll take the low day and the high day. So we'll take Monday because you're taking all of that mail out on Monday that you left for Saturday. Can't do that. But they will try to do it in a lot of these cases, right? So make sure you pay attention. If you get those forms back and it shows Saturday was deducted, also Monday, we'll grieve that, okay? We'll grieve that. Under M39, section 221.11 schedule. The count of mail on all letter delivery routes, regular and auxiliary, must be for 6 consecutive delivery days on one-trip routes and for 5 consecutive delivery days exclusive of Saturday on 2-trip routes or one-trip routes with abbreviated or no delivery on Saturday. It is not mandatory that mail counts begin on Saturday and continue through Friday so long as they are made on consecutive delivery days. M41, 921.2 schedule. 921.21. The count of mail period on all letter delivery routes, both regular and auxiliary, shall be A, for 6 consecutive delivery days on one-trip routes, and B, for 5 consecutive delivery days, exclusive of Saturday, on multi-trip routes or one-trip routes with abbreviated or no delivery on Saturday. 921.22. It is not mandatory that mail counts begin on Monday and continue through Saturday, but they must be made on consecutive delivery days. Office. 1. Exception to office standards. Management may make an exception to normal office standards for letter carriers with 25 years of continuous service or those over the age of 55. M39 section 242.214. M39 242.214. An exception may be made, and that's where we'll have a fight. It's not mandatory. It says may be made, and management will never agree to do that if that language is so pervasive as that. Management may make. So good luck with that. Make an exception to normal office standards for letter carriers with 25 years of continuous service or those over the age of 55. 242.214. An exception may be made for carriers who have served continuously for 25 years or more or are over 55 years of age. Before making an exception, determine that the carrier cannot meet the standard office time and it is his or her conduct and performance are otherwise satisfactory. The office time allowed for an exempted carrier must be reasonable and be determined by management. So, again, but this says continues for 25 years or more or are over 55 years of age. So it's not both. It's not 25 years of service and 55 years of age. It says 25 years or more or are over 55 years of age. So that's two things. Can have either 25 years of service or they're over the age of 55. So that means I could be here 5 years. If I'm over the age of 55, if I started at 50 and I'm over the age of 55, I can be exempt, right? They can make an exception because it says continuously for 25 years or more or are over 55 years of age. So that gave us a little break there. It doesn't mean you have to have 25 years and are over 55. 2. Volume adjustments. No volume adjustments will be made to office or street work evaluations unless the mail volume has changed by more than 13%. M39 section 242.312. M39 242.312. No mail volume adjustments will be made to carry office work, casing and strapping out functions, or street work evaluations unless the mail volume for the week of count and inspection is at least 13% higher or lower than the average mail volume for the period between the most recent regular and the current inspection, excluding the months of June, July, August, and December. 3. Total office time credit. Office time is normally evaluated at the lesser of the letter carrier's average office time used during the count week or the average standard time during the count week. M39 section 242.311. M39 242.311. Under normal conditions, the office time allowance for each letter route shall be fixed at the lesser of the carrier's average time used to perform office work during the count period or the average standard allowable office time. Street. 1. 2 street time selection choices. Management has 2 choices for selecting an evaluated street time for a route. M39 section 242.321. M39 242.321. For evaluation and adjustment purposes, the base for determining the street time shall be either A. The average street time for the 7 weeks random time card analysis and the week following the week of count and inspection, or B. The average street time used during the week of count and inspection. 2. Street time selection documentation requirement. Management is required to explain why the street time selected was chosen. The selection cannot be solely because the time was lower. M39 section 242.322. M39 242.322. The manager will note by explanatory comment on the reverse of Form 1840 or attachments thereto why the base street time allowance for the route was established at the time selected. The manager's selection of the street time allowance cannot be based on the sole criterion that the particular time selected was the lower. Now here's where I got them in my station. 100% of the routes were given the lower time. If it was the week of inspection that they selected, it was lower than the 1840 time. It was lower than the 7 weeks analysis. If the 7 weeks analysis was taken, it was lower than the week of inspection. 100% of my routes, the lower time was selected. 100%. They didn't even throw me a bone and throw one of them in there. That was the higher time. 100% of my routes, the lower time was selected. They cannot justify that going through this grievance procedure. An arbitrator will absolutely hammer their ass on that. They did that and still only came up with being able to take 2 hours. So if I can get just half of those, they're going to have to put a route back into my station. If they just took half of them, if the arbitrator says you're going to do 50%, higher and lower, I'll get a route added back to my station. That's the reason they did it. Headquarters came in and said, you're going to take 32 hours out. I educated my carriers, had a couple of good stand-up talks, and ended up with 2 hours. That's all they could find, after taking 100% of the lower times. All right, we're going to call it a day on that. I'm at an hour. All right. So next time we'll start with B3, how to record auxiliary assistance. Let me circle that so I'll know where I'm going to start. Okay, so that will be next week. I'll be out of town next week, so this will probably be Monday or Tuesday, okay? I'll do it, and we'll just keep doing 6-day counts, right? I think that's the most important thing we got going right now is 6-day counts because it's rampant, and we're going to educate ourselves, and I'll help as much as I can, all right? Again, look, I love the city letter carrier. That's the only reason I do this. The reason I'm going to take any position with this union in this next election is because I love the city letter carrier. I have told myself I would never run. I started this out. I'm not going to get political. I would never run. And look at me now. I cannot stand by and watch what's happening to my city letter carriers and not do something about it. That's just not who I am. I was not raised that way. If I think that I can help, I'm going to help. That's the reason I started this podcast. I didn't want to do this podcast. If I think that I can help the city letter carrier, I'm going to do it. Period. That's the reason I'm so attracted to the CLC, to Mr. Henry. He's told me his plan, and we'll talk about that later. He's told me his plan. I'm attracted to that. Why? Because I am in love with the city letter carrier. Nobody else means anything to me. Union people don't. I have good friends there. Management sure the hell don't. Labor, like I said, the 2 rules about labor is fuck labor. That's number 1. And that's how I'm going to conduct myself. I can work with anybody. And I will work with anybody. Anything that's put in front of me that I think may hurt the city letter carrier will be folded up and thrown in the trash. That's just how I am. That's how I'm going to be, all right? I love y'all very much. I love the city letter carrier with all my heart. And I'm going to fight like hell for y'all. In every single thing that I do, I'm going to fight like hell. Don't worry about what's being said about me on social media. Don't stress yourself on that. I don't care. Truly, I don't care about that shit. I know when I do this stuff here, I'm setting myself up. Don't give a fuck. It doesn't bother me one damn bit. One damn bit, all right? Tomorrow's going to be a fun episode. We're going to deal with narcissists. I think it'll help you, especially arbitration advocates. I think it'll help you. I think it'll help city carriers dealing with management, shop stewards, Formula A's dealing with management, and as a city letter carrier craft, dealing with our narcissistic president. And anybody who's going to confront him on a microphone, I'm going to help you out, all right? I'm going to help you out. We're going to have fun times, man, tomorrow. It's going to be a good episode. And then Mr. John Poskin himself will be on Tuesday. Don't know what he's going to talk about, but he reached out today. I said, come on Tuesday. Let's get it done. All right, so some more education. It's great stuff. It's beautiful. So I'll talk to y'all later. Love y'all very much. Y'all have a wonderful Monday. Talk to y'all tomorrow night. Narcissists. All right. All right, bye.